Hey there, Yasmin Robles from Robles Designs, where we create jewel-worthy websites and brands for entrepreneurs who are hell-bent on taking over the world. And today I'm going to tell you the 5 common non-designerly website mistakes that people often make, even some designers make. They're non-design stuff, so this might be something that you can tackle on your site without having to bring in your designer or maybe your webmaster. So if webmaster is still a word that is used, some clients of mine still call me a webmaster, and I'm like, yes, I'm the webmaster. But anyway, so the number 1, and these are not in order of priority, it's just how I listed them out. So one thing that you should keep in mind is to make your domain name as simple as possible. And although I feel like the more websites I've built, the harder it gets to get the domain name that you want. It's always taken, or it's like one of those weird ones where you have to bid, or it's like for sale for $10,000. And it's like, okay, I don't have that much. So just try to keep it simple. So for example, for roblesdesigns.com, which is mine right now, it had been taken for so long, but there was nothing on it. It wasn't for sale, but there was nothing on it. And so I had to use yasminroblesdesigns.com, which was not the wisest thing for me to do like 10 years ago, because it's so long and it has words that it had my name and last name, which would be hard to spell for many people. Robles is a little bit easier maybe, but Yasmin or Yasmin, it might be a little harder. And then combining those two plus the word designs, it was just difficult to be telling people, like spelling out exactly how to get to the site. So make sure that it is nothing crazy, that it is short and to the point. For Robles Designs, I kept the Robles since that is the business name, but when it finally became available, I got it and I removed the Yasmin off of it because I wanted to simplify it, but people already knew me by my name, so I wanted to keep the last name in there. If something had been available, like I know some businesses are, let's say you're a coffee place, and you call yourself awesomecoffee.com, that would be a good one. I don't even think that's available. But if you make it something so obscure that people don't know how to spell it, or they get confused with things like the S and the Z sound, they might think you're trying to be cute. I've gotten this question before. Is designs with a Z or an S? And mine is with an S, but a lot of people would assume that it is with a Z just because I wanted to make it cute or wanted to make it stand out a little bit. So Z and S are always interesting. But yeah, just keep your domain name as simple as possible. Make sure that it is something that is somewhat easy to spell, or at least has some words that are easier to spell versus your last name. Right now we're looking into an investment property, and the company Double Portions is, Double Portions, that's fine, because it's if their domain name, if that's what it was, it would be, it's words that in English you can just spell out. You don't need to be wondering what that spelling is. So just do a Google search. First of all, see if your domain name doesn't mean something funky. And then, or that if somebody has a really bad brand reputation and it's a very similar domain name or business name to theirs, make sure that it isn't the case. And you can always have a different domain name from that of your business name. So Robles Designs LLC, I have roblesdesigns.com, but I could have had, and I think I did at one point purchase Robles Design Studio. Again, that's a little longer. Robles is a bit harder to spell, but Design Studio would be easier to spell. So you got to balance it out. So that's why it's not my main domain name. Also, if you're going to use it for email, you don't want it to get so long. So if I did use, let's say, Robles Design Studio, it would be yasmin@roblesdesignstudio.com. That's a lot harder than just yasmin@roblesdesigns.com. If you can find a one-word domain name, I guess that would be great too. But just again, try to keep it simple, easy to spell out. Another thing that you would want to think about is the keywords within your domain name. So if you find, let's say, if for example, for some reason websitedesign.com became available, I'm pretty sure it'd be really expensive. But if it became available, that's like the keyword gold, right? For website designers. If you like let's say you were a yogi and maybe you have online yoga classes, then maybe you could literally name it online yoga classes or digital yoga classes or whatever that may be. Digital or yoga school on yogaschool.com, whatever that, because it's so simple. It's words that we already know how to spell. It's simple. It has keywords in there, so it has yoga and maybe class in there or online or whatever that may be. So keep that in mind when choosing a domain name. And if you can't decide, but it sounds like a domain name that somebody else could use, I would purchase it. So I purchased Robles Designs as soon as I found out it was available. And then I have, for Digital Hustle Tribe, I have digitalhustletribe.com, and I think it'd be wise to purchase a few different ones, variations. You don't necessarily have to use them, but you don't want other people to purchase them as well. So and especially if you're getting things, if it's something that you believe is going to be really big, I would purchase the variations just in case. Again, it's like $12 on GoDaddy. Don't quote me. Usually it's about $12. So there is a cost. Like, you don't want to be purchasing hundreds, but unless you're going to be making money off of reselling domain names. But you want to make sure that you have a variation so that when you do decide on one, that that it is easy to spell, that it is what you want, that it feels like it embodies your brand perfectly, and that your target market can easily get to. All right, so dive into the next tip, non-designerly, is to not slow your user down. So there are a variety of ways. I think Pingdom, Pingdom, is a good resource. They have a free tool that checks the speed of your site. I like that one a little better than the Google one, but you can use both of them. I can't remember off the top of my head which one does which, but I believe one of them, I think it's Google, will tell you which exact image is slowing down your site, which I find very helpful, because when I'm looking at a client's site, and let's say they have images on every single blog post, on every single page, I don't want to be downloading every single image, optimizing it, and then re-uploading. I just want to download the ones that are the heftiest. So with, I believe it's the Google one, it'll tell you your page speed, mobile and whatever, but it'll also tell you what the heaviest file or the heaviest the heaviest image is, and you can then say, okay, well, let me download that one, optimize it, and then put it back up, and then delete the old one, so that you can, it'll just help with the site speed. Site speed also has to do with, you can say, how do I simplify this? You can say, if I am the website and I am pulling code from all these places, so let's say I have plugins or custom code, add-ons, things like that, and I'm pulling all these things, and as you called me up on your browser, as the website, I'm trying to pull all these as fast as possible, it slows it down. So if you have WordPress, you don't want to have too many plugins, you want to slim it down. Same thing with Shopify, I would say with the apps, plugins, apps, same thing. Squarespace sites that we've built, we add some custom code, but they don't have things like apps. Usually when I slow down my own site, or when I'm fixing other people's sites, it's usually things like the background image. So if you go to pexels.com or any other stock site, they will give you images that are about 4,000 wide, and you do not need that much. You want to, if you download something like that, it depends on a Mac or PC, but there is a way in Mac on preview to adjust the size, and I would make it between 1800 to 2400, somewhere around there, for a background image that's going to be edge to edge of the browser. So that'll help slow it down. And then I use a tool called Image Optim, and that helps. What it does, it takes your image and, let's say, it makes it more lightweight, and it throws out the old image and saves the new image in that same folder. So if you're going to use Image Optim, it's great. You download it onto your laptop, onto your computer, and I would copy the images and then put them in a new folder, name that folder Optimize, and after I have resized those images, run it through Image Optim, and then it should optimize those images, and then you can upload them. It just makes them more lightweight, and it's so much better for your website. So just make sure that you're not slowing down your site too much, that you're looking at it from other browsers, look at it from other people's phones and laptops and tablets. and then just run a test every so often to see what is, sometimes it's code that's on your site, but sometimes it's a plugin, sometimes it's images. Honestly, usually it's images when it's a do-it-yourself website, and I've run a test, it's usually an image that is slowing things down, sometimes a plugin. All right, so next non-designerly mistake that's often made is not keeping your website updated. It depends on what platform you're on. So I've seen more issues on this with WordPress, and don't get me wrong, WordPress is my first love. That's why I first had my website. Now it's on Squarespace, but it's a platform that I really like, and for a couple of the side projects that I'm still working on. They'll be out soon. But a couple of those side projects, they are built on WordPress because I love WordPress and I like to fiddle with things and break things and then fix them. And so WordPress is just really great for that. And I like the fact that I can take my WordPress site and move it somewhere else. But there are plugins and themes to keep updated, and sometimes the theme creators they make a theme obsolete, and sometimes they don't continue to update or provide support for that theme anymore. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. So there's that, and then the plugins need to be updated, and so you could technically make it auto update everything. So Bluehost, GoDaddy, all those I believe have the option of updating your WordPress core automatically, and then you go in and you can set your plugins and themes to automatically update. The issue there is that hasn't happened yet, but it might, like let's say your theme updates, but one of the plugins doesn't because the developers haven't gotten to that theme, to that plugin yet. Then what might happen is that it'll clash, and so something will break on your site. Sometimes on the front end it's totally fine, sometimes it does show up. So I like to do it on my own, and I like to update. It might not be the right way, but I like to update them one by one. So like let's say I want to start with a theme. All right, I will update the theme first, and then I will double check the site, and then I will update a plugin, double check the site, do it on incognito mode or private mode, double check everything, and keep going that way, because I want to make sure I know exactly, because if I update, let's say I have 10 plugins and I update all 10, well now I don't know which one it was. Hopefully you have a backup when that happens, because you can always bring the backup back up. And but if you updated all of them, you have no idea which one it is that you need to revert. So you really want to make sure that you have a backup, but that you also you know which one you're updating at that moment, so that it doesn't turn into some kind of guessing game as to what happened. So far we have keep your domain simple, don't slow down your user, don't slow down your site, and keep your website updated. With Squarespace, they automatically update things unless you have really customized code or your site was built on developer mode in Squarespace. You shouldn't really be worried about keeping it updated. Shopify, it also depends on the theme creator. It's similar, it's like a hybrid of Squarespace and WordPress, but they have apps and they have themes, and if you pick the theme that was not one of the Shopify themes, you are the developer of that theme would get to be the one that pushes out an update. And then same thing with the apps, they call them apps, same thing, plugins, apps. And so sometimes it does cause a conflict, but I've never seen it as much as I've seen it in WordPress. And again, it hasn't happened that often. It's just I've seen it more. Maybe I've worked more on WordPress sites, but I've seen it more on WordPress and on Shopify's end. But if you create a super custom design on Shopify and then you set to automatically update, all of your customizations could be deleted. So I recommend, if you're going to do a custom site, you need to make sure to back up your site, whether that is Shopify, WordPress, or Squarespace. So make sure you do all that. So keep your website updated, make sure you have a backup. Secure your site, make sure your site, and this is pretty much standard with any hosting package now. I know Shopify and Squarespace automatically offer it to you no matter what tier level you're on. I believe some hosts for WordPress do offer it with the most minimal. I think Bluehost offers it with their most minimal WordPress tier. GoDaddy, I'm not so sure about. You can go check their sites. There's other SiteGround, there's other companies out there. So, but essentially, you need an SSL certificate, and this is the HTTP, the S at the end. So HTTPS for secure, for super secure, super awesome, and that S will allow your browser to not have that warning come up that your site might not be secure. And it depends on your browser. Some of the browsers that I've tested on, they just block the site and they force you to click on something saying, yes, I understand that this site might not be secure. I still want to go ahead and go into it. Others will just have on the little address bar, they will have like a little warning sign, and when you click on it, it says this site might not be secure. So you don't want your users to see that, because they might not want to enter your site. They might not, even if you're not selling anything on there, they might not trust that you are keeping things secure. They might not even know what an SSL certificate is, but they see that warning and they say, well, maybe there's a virus or something on here. So SSL certificates are a must to make sure it's secure. And then Google also, as far as I've read, that Google doesn't give it out all its tricks, but as far as I've researched, Google seems to favor the sites with an SSL certificate. So because it is secure, and Google's whole thing is to not just make money on ads and stuff, but its goal is to get the user the content that they want in a secure way so that they come back to Google each and every time. So make sure your site is secure, and that it has an SSL certificate. Stop redirecting your visitors to mobile-only versions. This I haven't seen as often anymore. It was back in like a couple of years ago where I would see that sites had their desktop version of the site and then they had a mobile version. And sometimes the mobile version would have an M. So if it was Robles Designs, it would be roblesdesigns.com on your desktop, but then m.roblesdesigns.com on your phone. And some, literally, it was almost like having a completely different site. It wasn't just that. It's like some themes on WordPress, they will allow you to do certain customizations without using media queries, which is a code nerdy word, but we use media queries to say when your screen gets to this size, this is how I want the content to look. If you're using a theme, sometimes they kind of do it, but in a bloated code kind of way, where you go in and you say, don't show this content on this size screen, show it on this size screen, and so on. This, what I'm talking about, was a little different, where it was almost like it was literally another website, completely created, where you would on the back end, we would have to go in, update the homepage on the desktop version, and then go in, update the homepage on the mobile version. And it was just almost like having two completely different sites, except one would only show up on mobile, the other one would only show up on desktop. Unless you were to type in the M, then it would. I haven't seen it that often, but don't do that. Google wants you to make your site responsive. It wants you to make one site easy to use, easy to access on any size screen, not for you to create two different websites. If you're creating a mobile-only thing, maybe an app is in place for you, but you shouldn't really need it. It should be responsive. It should be fluid. And what that means, in case you don't know, it just means that when you resize your screen, that it should easily resize everything and then reorganize everything in a organized way that is still easy to read, easy to browse through for the user. All right, the next thing that people often forget about is to use a professional email. And I get it. Maybe you just started your business. You still have an at Gmail or like at Yahoo or whatever it may be. You don't, and I did also start this way. But as soon as you can afford it, get yourself a professional email and then make sure that it actually matches your domain name, because I have run across where I meet someone and they're like, yeah, this is my website, and they might mention their email address, and all I remember is that it was their first name. So then what I do, because it's typically your, whatever it is, your first name, last name, at, and then your domain name, I will type that in, but it doesn't get to them because that's not their email address. So if you do purchase an email, a professional email address, make sure that it matches your main domain name. So for example, Yasmin at Robles Designs. We also have hello at Robles Designs for general inquiries. If I were to have a Gmail account, I think I still have an old one, but if I were to have one, I would try to make it as simple as possible. Maybe Yasmin Designs, Robles Designs at gmail.com, something like that that's still available. Trying to get it that way, but moving off of that as soon as I can afford it, just because you want to look professional, you want to look legitimate, and having a Gmail account doesn't make you look legitimate. It's also, again, it depends on your budget, but with me, I can afford it. I think it might be $12 per month. Don't quote me on that. My accountant is going to be like, you should know your numbers. So will my business coach. But I think it's about $12, and then what I get is through Google. I get the professional email, and I get the Google Drive. I get Google Documents, all that stuff, and I think I get certain amount of bandwidth, so it's like a more official Google email. I like Google. I love Gmail, and I wanted to use a Gmail platform. I was stuck on Outlook, but I wanted to use a Gmail platform. There's so many tricks that I know I can do with Gmail in terms of organizing my inbox, that I wanted to switch over, but I kept the Yasmin at roblesdesigns.com, and it's still Gmail, so nothing ever changed for me from my Gmail account to this more professional Google account. It's just that I made it sound more professional, if that makes sense. And then one of the next things is to build your site on a platform where you're in control. What this means is that you want to make sure that you can download files, that you can make backup. And this is also when you're building your website, you want to make sure you don't write your articles, like your blog posts. And I do it too sometimes when I'm running out of time. You don't necessarily want to write your articles on the platform. You want to write them on a document and then copy them over to the platform. You want to make sure that you're saving all the images just in case. And then if you're on something like a WordPress, you want to make sure that you are backing up your site. Shopify also allows it. I can't remember if Squarespace allows it, but Shopify also has some apps that will automatically back up your site. So make sure that you're on a platform that allows you to have the control that you want. So if you like to fiddle around with things, maybe WordPress will be the best one, because you're in control. You're really in control with WordPress. It's just what level of control you want. There's pros and cons to those, but make sure you at least have a backup a way to back up your site. You don't want to be left out in the cold by an email provider. I don't know how I feel about this. So if you're working with a designer who, not good or bad, but they have, let's say, so one of the ways that this works, not that it works all the time this way, but one of the ways this works is that let's say I am a reseller for company XYZ, that's a hosting company. And so when you purchase your hosting, you think that you're purchasing it through me, and your site will be a little locked down. So if something goes wrong with your site, you have to come to me, and then I charge you to fix it, right? And then there's also some designers who will start locking things down. So sometimes this works really well, where you say, okay, well, my hosting company is with this guy over here, but Yasmin, I want you to recreate the site. The guy over there doesn't care because he's getting recurring income. He's like, yeah, here, Yasmin, take the files, just go with it and do your thing. Let me know if you need anything. That's worked out fine. Sometimes they even give the customer a good deal on hosting, so totally cool. There's other times when the designer has so much control over your site that you can't actually change much on it. So I've run into issues where, same thing, the client is like, I love your style, can you just freshen up my site for me? And when I log in, there's nothing to, like, you can upload maybe products, you can upload product descriptions, and you might be able to change a headline on one of the sections on the homepage, and that's all you have access to do. Everything else is held by the other person, and the other person is not willing to let anyone else in. So the other person, the way it worked with one client, or the way they wanted it to work was I work with the client to create the new design, and then the client would then have to pay him to implement everything. And there was just too many cooks in one kitchen. So sometimes it works out. I've had issues like that where it actually works out. The developer and I, because it's a developer, not a designer, it's a developer. The developer and I work together, and we've created really great sites. They understand the platform and and I understand the platform from the design standpoint, so I'm not going to give them something crazy to design. And so it's worked great. And other times there's so much friction because it's like somebody stepping into their territory that it doesn't work out. So all in all, to say that make sure your site is built on a platform where you're in control, as much control as you want, that you are the owner for it, that you are empowered to do whatever you want with the site. So if you want to make it all pink, you can make it all pink. Just even if you want to change out content, that you can change out any content you want. If you want to add custom code, that you can do that. There's also times when you can't because you're in an industry that can't do that, such as insurance. I have a client right now. They're an insurance company. They cannot do any sort of customization on their site because everything has to be approved. There's no spot to put in custom code, nothing like that. So we get to work around that. All right. And then one of the other mistakes, the last mistake that you might be making on your site that has nothing to do with design, is that you're not collecting emails. And I really am so gung-ho about collecting emails and starting email marketing, even if you don't have anything to offer. I know that in other videos I said, don't just say that join my newsletter, but if literally you have nothing to offer yet, put on there join my newsletter, and then come back a month later and add a free PDF or whatever it may be. Some of my clients, they have recipes. Give them a free ebook of your top recipes. They might never read the ebook, but now you've got their email. I mean, how many of us have signed up for things that we then don't read? Me. So come up with something that you can, that is equal or the equivalence of their email address. So if they're giving you their email address, what would be a good exchange for that? Is it a three-part video series? Is it a PDF? What can you give them that will support them, get them to know you a little better, and your brand, and possibly get them to purchase from you? So to recap, I don't even know if I said 5, right? Some common mistakes that 5 non-design website mistakes. I am not editing that out. Okay, 1, keep the domain name simple. Make it easy to spell, make it short, sweet. Don't slow down your users. So make sure your site is up to speed. Not keeping your website updated. So make sure your website is continually being updated, and that you don't, like 3 years from now, you're not like, oh my God, my whole site is broken because I haven't updated anything. So make sure your site is secure. Have that SSL certificate. On that note, make sure you're backing up your site. Don't redirect visitors to mobile-only versions. You actually might not be doing this. This might be an older sort of thing, but just in case you're on an older platform, make sure you don't have like a mobile-only version of your entire site. Use a professional email. Make sure you look legit. Build your site on a platform where you are in control, and whoever is somebody supporting you in building it, make sure to ask questions about how much control you have over this, and if you were to bring somebody else in, could that person design? Could that person add custom code? How much control do you have for that? And then start collecting emails now in order to grow your business. And on that note about emails, make sure you go to my site, roblesdesigns.com. I do have a freebie, a free course for launching your site. And what this is a free plan, a free guide it's essentially a bunch of videos put together for you to plan out how you're going to build out your site. It goes through different platforms. It goes through a little bit of SEO, like very high level SEO. It goes through some of the pages that you might need, all the things. So it's everything that will help build a foundation for your website before you actually get to build it, so that you don't build it 3 times on 3 different platforms. You have the foundation, you have the knowledge, and you can go in and flourish. So that is pretty much it. Let me know if you have any questions. Make sure you comment below on what if any of these blew your mind, or if you know of one non-designer thing, that mistake that people make, put that in the comments. And if, depending on where you're watching this, make sure you like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, follow, all the things. All right, I will catch you in the next video.